It's another edition of the Prospect Reef. We're going to dive into Quentin Musty, Shakir Mukhamadullin, and Luca Cagnoni and look at their most recent game tapes and empty the notebook. So all that and more on today's episode.
You're Locked On Sharks, your daily podcast on the San Jose Sharks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, welcome to Locked On Sharks, the premier hockey podcast covering your favorite team in the Bay Area. My name is JD Young, contributor at San Jose Hockey Now. And I want to thank you for making Locked On Sharks your first listen. Proudly part of the Locked On Network, we cover your team every day. If you want to be an everydayer, all you have to do is just follow wherever you get podcasts, or you can watch on YouTube as well. And today we're going to be digging into the most recent games of three of the Sharks' bigger top name prospects, Quentin Musty, Shakir Mukhamadullin, and Luca Cagnoni, and watch these games, took notes. We have the notebook now with notes from what I've observed, kind of a shift by shift basis for especially some of the CHL guys, and just kind of my observations from these guys and how they've been playing and how they're continuing to progress. So we'll start with Quentin Musty, talk about Shakir Mukhamadullin, and then we'll end up with Luca Cagnoni. Before we get into all that, I do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you guys by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. And I do know the Sharks play the Jets tonight here at the Shark Tank. If you want to catch every hit, every shot, every goal from your local Sharks broadcast, all you have to do is just check it out on the broadcast on SiriusXM on the SXM app. Search Sharks. All right, so let's start with one Quentin Musty, of course, playing with the Sudbury Wolves. The game I watched, his most recent game was 12:30, so over the weekend, when the Wolves beat the Greyhounds 5-1. And I'm going to start by saying this was not Musty's most impressive offensive performance. This was a much more of a kind of having to play more in the defensive zone. This wasn't some of the games that we saw earlier this year where he's putting up 5 points. He ended up with a goal, 4 shots, and 2 penalty minutes in this game. And the fact that it wasn't his most impressive offensive game, and he still had a goal. Granted, it was an empty netter, 4 shots, and was definitely creating offense. That goes to say, I think, with what Musty's floor is going to be. And one thing to kind of keep in mind is, with what's made Sudbury so good is that top line, especially with him and Dalibor Dvorský. Dalibor Dvorský has been in the World Juniors, of course. So it's interesting to see how, they still have David Goyette, who's a very fine player as well. But, Dvorský was a top 10 pick, right, with the Blues last year. Not having Dvorský there, I was interested to see how Musty's game, because it's been very much all gas, all offense, and how does he play in his own zone and stuff. So definitely plenty of offense, in this game. Couple of things I saw from him defensively that we haven't really seen from him before. No, I don't think Quentin Musty is going to be a Selke nominee defensively, and I think he still kind of maybe cheats a little bit for offense. That's kind of part of the junior game, where he's maybe kind of hanging around the blue line instead of engaging, a little bit more that you would like to see. And again, that's stuff that he's going to, every 18, 19-year-old, especially when you're one of the star players playing in CHL, they all do that, right? It's not just a Quentin Musty thing. This is something that gets coached, right? That is, learning, especially when you get up to AHL level. You can't do that, right? Because teams will just pick you apart. And so try not to hold that against him. But, some of the, hanging around the blue line, but then he would make a really smart read. And, I saw this like in the first period where he makes a really smart read and kind of dives back in and intercepts the puck. And then that creates a transition 2-on-1 the other way, where he's able to kind of go get the puck, even though he's kind of hanging around the blue line for a little bit, makes the right read, and then boom, you see offense generate the other way. Sudbury wasn't able to score there, but again, you're putting your team in a good position, right? 2-on-1, and then all of a sudden it's an offensive zone face-off. So, continues to be a big part of the power play, especially now with Dalibor Dvorský, not, with him being in World Juniors. I believe he should be back here soon. Anyway, but what you are seeing though is he is still such a huge part of what Sudbury's been doing, but Sudbury's been getting more help from the rest of the team, so it's not having to be the Quinton Musty, that top line show from them, which is especially that we saw earlier in the season. The power play tonight in that game, which Quinton Musty was a huge part of, went 3 for 4. And if you remember the last time we did this deep dive, we talked about how Sudbury's power play was awful. Like they were like at 6 or 7%. Now they've turned that around, and that's when they're starting to kind of see more production. And you saw Quinton Musty's numbers explode right after we had that last deep dive on him. In a large part to the power play. Now it's a little bit more evened out. And again, Musty scored his goal. It was an empty net power play goal at the very end of the game. Still a goal, right? But throughout it, I thought you saw him being a little bit more active in the defensive zone. You'd still like to see a little bit more out there, and that's something that he's going to have to continue to learn and grow. The offensive game, like I said, it wasn't his best offensive game. And I think large part because of, not having Dalibor Dvorský. And I know you're going to worry, well, if he doesn't have Dalibor Dvorský, is he going to be able to continue? Again, when he's playing with like a Will Smith or a Luke or, a Macklin Celebrini or Tomas Hertl, he'll be fine. Like when he's playing with I think great passers, he's going to be fine. You're seeing Musty kind of being forced in uncomfortable positions right now, and kind of have to kind of round out his game, and that's good, right? Those are what you want him to kind of do, especially at this level. Is be put in those uncomfortable positions and continue to grow and develop. It's what you do with those positions and how you grow and develop. But offensively, he was, asked to do a lot in this game. I thought some of his passing wasn't as crisp, and that could be also playing with new line mate type of situation. Kind of made a couple of cross ice passes that, weren't maybe the best play there. But again, you don't want to kind of kill the creativity with him. So I still think, again, one game, right? I'm watching one game here. Sudbury kind of controlled this game. Sudbury, even though they won 5-1, they were getting outshot for a good majority of this game. The Soo Greyhounds, I think, had like 35 shots to the Wolves, 25 or something like that. So it was definitely Greyhound kind of controlling the pace of this game. But overall, I would kind of give this like a B- type of game from Quinton Musty. Don't panic. It is one game. Literally one game, right? Just happened to be the game I watched. So still think Musty is continuing to do what we want him to see. You're still getting the production. And again, when Dalibor Dvorský comes back in, that top line is just like an insane top line again. I think you're going to see the production go back to what we were kind of seeing before World Juniors and kind of before the Christmas break, where they were, Musty's kind of rolling out of bed with 2 points a game. So seeing a little bit of dip production, especially when you're losing one of your top players, that's going to hurt anybody. But again, forcing him to be in kind of uncomfortable positions of having to play defense, kind of having to work on those sides of the game. That's good. That's part of the development process. So we'll continue to Shakir Mukhamadullin, who has been very much rounding out his game here in just 1 second. I know the Sharks have been not very good as we reach the halfway point of the season. But regardless of the Sharks being last in the standings, I want to remind you that you could win big by playing daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper. the official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network. Sleeper is our number one choice for daily fantasy sports, especially daily fantasy hockey, because with Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey contests. All you have to do is just pick some of your favorite players, whether NHL superstars like McDavid, Crosby, McKinnon, or some of your favorite Sharks like Tomas Hertl, Mikael Granlund, or Slippery Pete, and record more or less than their sleeper projections for things like goals, assists, saves, plus minus, and more in a given game. To win 100 times bet on Sleeper, you need to correctly predict the outcome of 8 player stats. You heard me, Sharks fans. You can win 100 times your money playing daily fantasy hockey with Sleeper. So start paying attention and nail your picks so you can start winning big. Use promo code LOCKEDONNHL and you'll get a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for details and locational availability. All right, Shakir Mukhamadullin. So I know normally I try to get the episodes, especially not on game days, out at like 9 p.m., on Pacific time. Wanted to wait for the end of the Cuda game because I wanted to watch this Cuda game. And I've talked about how Shakir Mukhamadullin, like you kind of seen him stack games upon him. And tonight was another just like great performance. Another strong game by Shakir Mukhamadullin. As the Barracuda wins 6-4, Mukhamadullin ends up with 2 assists with 2 shots on goal as well. Guys, he's getting close. He's getting close to being NHL ready, because that's the big question, right? Is when are we going to see Mukhamadullin in the NHL? And he is playing a ton of minutes with the Barracuda right now. Him and Gavanke have been a great partnership, and both those guys, I think Gavanke has paid his due and is more than deserving to be playing NHL games here, and should be playing NHL games at some point. Gavanke has been awesome, and this I think this pairing, little rocky to start out, but I think they really have found their groove, and they're easily the Barracuda's best pairing, and they play a lot of minutes. Gavanke usually plays the power play 1. Mukhamadullin plays as the quarterback of power play 2. And it was interesting tonight where kind of in the big moments, right? If you didn't watch the game, the third period, the Barracuda started with a power play, kind of split up between the second period and the third period. And instead of a fresh unit, fresh ice, instead of rolling power play 1 unit out, he put out they put out power play 2 headed by Shakir Mukhamadullin, and guess what? They score with Shakir Mukhamadullin getting the primary assist on a beautiful shot pass that Scott Sabourin kind of takes care of it and puts home. But great job kind of walking the line and creating the offense, and just Mukhamadulin's ability to kind of just move. He has trouble, like if he's kind of standing still and turning. And you saw that tonight where there's like a kind of a fly ball puck, where the defenseman kind of lost it from within his own, in the defensive zone, and Mukhamadulin's kind of going back and he's trying to look at it and make a turn, right? Almost like you're trying to catch a fly ball, right? And he just blows a tire. And we've seen him kind of deal with that, where he's kind of having to do that quick turn, like going, like that. He still needs to work on that a little bit, but when he has the puck and he has to make turns and kind of, he just looks so smooth. And I think like one of the things I wrote down is he makes his life easy on his partner, right? You rarely see Mukhamadullin like kind of pass off a grenade, like, where you're kind of putting your defensive partner in a bad position because, you're unable to, maybe you got some pressure on you and you're just trying to get rid of the puck. You rarely see that out of Mukhamadullin. He has a calmness to him, which again is something that you want to see as a defenseman, right? You don't want your defenseman out there all kind of helter skelter. And Mukhamadullin definitely has like a calmness to his play. He just kind of moves gracefully, and when we first saw him, it looked very much like a baby giraffe out there, and you're starting to see that it's becoming a much more graceful movement from him. Again, still his Zoolander, as I joked with our good friend Keegan, his inability to turn, right? That's his Zoolander. If you haven't watched Zoolander, one, that's an old reference, but two, go watch Zoolander. His ability to turn, like that pivot, something he's going to continue to work on. But again, it's kind of a little bit tougher move for those big defensemen. But when he has the puck, he makes it looks effortless. Like he doesn't look like he's trying too hard. His ability to get to the puck to the net, create space, and again, be a good defensive pairing with someone. And Gavanke, both these guys are offensively gifted defensemen, and they work well at kind of playing off each other and kind of almost like, knowing they've gotten that chemistry down of knowing, okay, it's my turn, your turn, without kind of having to fight for it, right? They've kind of got that part down. But I really liked his, not just in the offensive zone, in the defensive zone, his ability to kind of shut down plays. He uses his body pretty well. There was a play where kind of get behind the net, and he runs like a little bit of a pick play on a guy where he kind of interferes with him and gets him in the boards. That gets the puck over to Gavanke, right? Where he, again, kind of making life easy for your defensive partner by knowing when to, just be able to get Gavanke the puck. Like that type of stuff. Those are what you want to see. And again, he's 6'4". It's not like he's like the most physical defenseman, but I think when he does kind of decide to be physical, he has enough physicality. He'll still need to kind of put on some weight and be, NHL ready, quote unquote. But another great play. Defense, like he does such a good job, especially on the rush, or like in that transition of kind of knowing when to stand up and kind of try to stop the play with either it's a poke check or just kind of get in the way enough where it makes kind of disrupts the play. And there was a sequence in the second period, I think it was in the second period, where like the same shift, Tucson trying to work their way into the zone, and he kind of hits the blue line and just kind of puts that wall up and decides, okay, now's where I'm going to make my stand, get the and a very active stick, get that stick out there. But he's not dangerous with it. We have seen him kind of take a couple high sticking penalties in some games more recently, but I thought tonight was a much more kind of cleaner stick. And Tucson's a really good team, right? They've put up, I think Nick Nolan said they'd averaged like 6 2/3 goals in the 3 games they played before against the Barracuda until tonight. So, but I thought his defense, especially on those kind of on the rush plays of being able to kind of know when to put the fence up and be like, okay, here I'm going to make my stand, and then do it well. Like, yeah, you can do that, and then how sometimes guys get pyloned. Where it's like, I'm going to make a stand here, and then they just get blown by. Now, Mukhamadullin, with that size, and again, his ability, he's one of the nice things about being a 6'4" defenseman is your ability to cover ground quickly. And you saw this on a 3-on-1. Gavanke kind of makes a bit of a bad pinch. Puck gets by him, and then Mukhamadullin stuck on a 3-on-1 here. 1,000% of the credit, goes to Magnus Kroner for making a huge save there, especially because the game was tied at that point, if I recall correctly, at 4-on-4. But what Mukhamadullin does really well in this is, right, as the defenseman, your job is to any kind of odd man situations like that. Whoever has the puck, that is the goalie's responsibility, right? You are supposed to take away the pass, and he does a great job with it, playing the pass until the very last second, and then he kind of, as the forward is the shooter is getting closer, he kind of cuts in towards, especially with his stick, right? 6'4" defenseman with a big stick. He can cover a lot of ice really quickly, cuts over and forces the forward to kind of shoot that puck just a split second before you wants to, and he's not able to kind of get the forward's not able to kind of get Magnus Kroner to bite where he wants. So does a great job again, being able to kind of cover that ground. So I think Mukhamadullin is progressing where we want to see him. He's quickly become one of my favorite players on the Barracuda to watch. And I think at some point you're going to have to kind of rip the Band-Aid. I know that the Sharks don't want to throw another rookie defenseman in there, especially with all the guys, between Ty Emberson and, Ahochuk and then Henry Thrun. The last thing they need to do is, have 4 rookie defensemen out there. But at some point, Mukhamadullin is coming for somebody's job, and he's been playing really well. And as Sharks fans, the progress we've seen, since February March when he showed up here to now, it's you got to be excited for what Mukhamadulin's, it feels like he's just kind of scratching the surface now as he's really starting to refine his game defensively. Loving what we're seeing from Mukhamadullin. He'll be playing NHL games at this season. I get people, especially on YouTube comments, when's Mukhamadullin playing? Or on Twitter, when's Mukhamadullin playing? He's gonna be playing at some point. He's getting close to being ready. So we'll look at another defenseman who's got some time as a 2023 NHL draft pick, but I think is going to be playing NHL games as well. At Luca Cagnoni here in just 1 second. The NFL season is almost over, but there's still time to get on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. Say $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. The app is super easy to use. There's so many ways to bet, like live same-game parlays, so you can kind of, if a guy maybe like Steph Curry starting to go off and you feel like tonight's the night where maybe he's going to hit like 7 threes and hit 40 points. That sounds like a fun time to me. It's always fun to root for superstars to do super cool things. You can find bets in the new Explore tab. You can make a parlay in the Parlay Hub, the best way to find popular parlays. So you can see what everyone else is doing, kind of, cheating on the test, and see what everyone else is doing and see if that's something that you would want to kind of partake in as well. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. All right, so let's finish up with Sharks 2023 4th-round pick Luca Cagnoni. So this game was from New Year's Eve when the Winterhawks played the Vancouver Giants. It was a 3-0 Winterhawks win. Cagnoni, 0 goals, 0 assists, 3 shots on goal. And I know I think if you've been kind of following along with Cagnoni, right, he went through a part of the season where he was just could not be stopped offensively. And you've seen that kind of production dry up, and maybe you're wondering, maybe Cagnoni's kind of maybe not the same player, whatever it is. The points are coming, guys. And again, if you follow sports, if you followed hockey for him, like guys go through these droughts. But Cagnoni is doing everything you want to see. Even this game was kind of crazy. The Winterhawks outshot Vancouver 53-14. 53-14 in this game, and they only got 3 goals. The Vancouver goalie was just kind of in a zone. There was a bunch of just like, oh my God, how did they miss that type of plays? Like this could have easily been like an 8-0 type of game just because of how dominant Portland was in this game. Cagnoni, he's the engine of the offense, especially on the blue line. He continues to just drive the offense, and anytime he's out there, Portland very rarely spends any time in their defensive zone, just because he's right. He gets the puck and they get out of the zone quickly if they're in their own defensive zone. So he had 2 in the first period alone. He could have had 2 goals himself. One where he kind of takes it, drives to the net, makes a nice little kind of cutback, and then just misses on a goal. Had a nice spinorama attempt earlier that I posted earlier this week as well on Twitter, where he kind of just makes some space and makes the guy look silly and just goes to the net, spinorama, and just misses on there. Creates another awesome opportunity there. One of the most impressive things I saw in this game. So first period, I believe his first period, Portland's on the PK. Of course, Cagnoni, first PK unit out there, playing net front, kind of trying to cover it in that front. He's playing against this gentleman named Tyler Thorpe, who for Vancouver, he's an 18-year-old, I think. So he's an over 8, or he's gone through the draft process once, wasn't draft. But anyway, Mr. Thorpe is 6'4". Luca Cagnoni is 5'9". If that. I've met him in person. He's maybe 5'9". He beats him twice on a physical battle. So puck gets shot to the net, kind of gets kicked out towards the corner boards. They race to the boards, pretty even match there. But what Cagnoni does is, as they're kind of getting ready, they're racing towards the boards, he uses his size and his advantage, where he's able to get under, almost like he puts his shoulder underneath Thorpe's stick and kind of lifts up the stick, so that way Tyler Thorpe isn't able to play the puck. He kind of gets under him, gets it, and gets the puck out of there. The puck kind of rims around, because they're on the power play. Cagnoni is able to then get out from underneath that and then rush back, beats Tyler Thorpe back to the front of the net as a shot's coming in to block a shot with his stick. Just, again, that determination. We just talked about Mukhamadullin, 6'4", what he can do, right? Just how being 6'4" gives you a natural advantage, especially as a defenseman. But Luca Cagnoni just played a guy who's the same size as Shakir Mukhamadullin, and on this play just beat the brakes off. There was nothing that Tyler Thorpe could do because just of how smart. And again, it's not like Luca Cagnoni woke up today and was like, "Oh, I'm 5'9" now instead of being, 6'2" or 6'3". And yes, he's going to have his disadvantages of being a 5'9" defenseman. But that play there just kind of was like one of those light bulb plays for me, where it's like, you know what, this kid's going to figure it out. No matter what, this kid's just going to figure it out. So he continues to be the engine on the power play, continues to be the engine for the team's offense. Hasn't gotten the point production recently, but I think it's coming because he's doing everything right. He's doing what you want to see out of him. His ability to walk the line and just kind of create space, not only for himself, but for his teammates, especially in the offensive zone, either on 5-on-5 or on the power play. Doesn't matter. The guy is he's a natural on the kind of making dudes look silly on there. But again, it's what separates him from a guy like Ryan Merkley, right? You never heard me say something like that about Ryan Merkley, and Ryan Merkley is one of the most gifted offensive defensemen that we've ever seen, prospect wise. Go look at his last season with the London Knights. But you're not seeing Ryan Merkley make that type of play. And I think that's the difference, right? That's where you don't have to worry about that. And I think Cagnoni just has that kind of determination, grit, whatever you want to call it, that chip on his shoulder, where he's just going to kind of keep making guys look wrong. And I was really impressed with this game with him. And again, the Portland could have won this game 8-0. They just did whatever they wanted, and Luca Cagnoni was a huge reason of it. So I know, again, the point production has been it's kind of dried up for him. It's going to come back. It's like this team is a monster, and they're going to continue to be a monster all season long. And he is a big reason for it. Their forwards are good, but Cagnoni is he kind of is the engine for it. He's the one who starts. He's the straw that kind of stirs the drink for this team, and the production's coming again soon. So that's going to be it for today's Prospect Reef. We'll be back tomorrow to talk about the Sharks-Jets game, and of course, we have the quarterfinals. Is it quarterfinal? We're down to the last four, the final four of the World Juniors, with a lot of Sharks prospects. So we'll have reactions to that as well. So make sure you guys are following along wherever you get podcasts, or you can watch on YouTube as well. You can follow the show on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Locked On Sharks. You can follow me on Twitter at MyFryhole. Until tomorrow, bye, friends.